Today, I'm here to answer a question that I'm sure many of us at one point or another have asked ourselves about Monsters U and Monsters Inc. after watching it. Is Monsters Inc. supposed to be a scary movie? I mean, it's about monsters scaring children for, to power their electricity, so yeah, of course, some scary things are going to happen in it, but it's a kids movie that's also meant to be funny some of the time, so I know it wasn't made to be too scary, especially because I don't think Monsters Inc. Has as many or more horror elements in it as Toy Story had. But, of course, the monsters in Monsters Inc., they do get into some scary situations of their own. And it's not just because, it's not just because they're actually more afraid of children because of all the germs and cooties they carry, which is why the CDA takes its job very seriously whenever some monster walks back into the monster world with some toys or items or articles of clothing on them from the human world. That's why they all shout, That's why they all shout, 2319! We have a 2319! And they all tackle George when he has a sock on his back, or that random jumbled toys from Boo's room that Sully stuffed into a locker. And the funny thing is, some viewers of Monsters Inc., a lot of back in 2020, a lot of YouTube commenters compared 2319 to COVID-19. So in Monsters Inc., the monsters are, as you know, in Monsters U and Monsters Inc., the monsters have to scare children to power their electricity to generate the electricity. It's a clean green energy source. But at the same time, they're more scared of the children than the children are then, because they're afraid of catching the disease from children. And you can bet that there aren't many doctors in the monster world who are trying to research how to treat infections from humans. But Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan definitely have some more scary situations to face in the plots of Monsters University and Monsters Incorporated. In Monsters University, they definitely went through some scary stuff in the scare games because of the toxic blow urchins and that gigantic librarian who throws them out if they do not stay quiet. Fortunately, the Uzma Kappas knew how to exploit her one weakness. She isn't very good at keeping her attention on just one student making noise, so they bought Scott Squibble's time to get the Uzma Kappa flag by splitting up and causing trouble in all different areas of the library. So the librarian couldn't choose which one to throw out first, since they were all apart. And yeah, the very odd thing I found about Monsters University is the ironic thing about the plot in Monsters U is that even though one of the scare games is about not scaring teenagers, Mike and Sullivan are forced into a desperate situation in which they have to scare adults to power up the closet door in that summer camp cabin in Camp Teamwork from the other side in the human world. Which was it was also a pretty scary situation for them to face in the climax when Mike risked his life to get lost in Camp Teamwork because he was very miffed about Dean Abigail Hardscrabble and James P. Sullivan doubting his scaring skills. And yeah, it's Monsters U showed me that kids and adults, depending on the person, some are more easily scared by monsters than others. Like if I remember correctly, there was that one 6-year-old who there's that one 6-year-old girl that almost touched Pete Claus Ward, and Neil and Smitty put her door through the shredder because she wasn't as easily scared by monsters as the park rangers who were investigating that Camp Teamwork when when Mike set things up to put them on edge of mysterious happenings with the beds falling over before Sully finally jumped up and scared them. And the interesting thing about the big risk they took in scaring adults is, well, it sets a really dangerous precedent in which that probably could have helped with a shortage of screams, but no other monster is ever going to take that risk of letting grown adults, letting a trusted that adult authority figures know their existence. But, although I do like to think, I mean, yeah, I guess sometimes, I mean, I guess I could estimate that, most of the time when, the kid that a monster was assigned to scare becomes a teenager, they might be too old to be scared by monsters, but, some teens who've watched Monsters University said that, it's, they're still pretty easy to scare. And, Candace Flynn from Phineas and Ferb, she's a teenage character who screams a lot and is easily scared by lots of things. So, yeah, maybe some of the Monsters Inc. monsters have a teenage kid who's like Candace Flynn and could still be scared by monsters until they're a young adult. So I like to think that there might be some monsters within Monsters Incorporated who might keep around the same door they've been assigned if they can still effectively scare the same kid after they become a teenager before they're old enough to leave the room to move out and not have that bedroom anymore. Yeah, which brings me to Monsters Inc. So Mike and Sully were surely had a much scarier situation to face in Monsters Inc. than they had in Monsters U, the prequel, because mostly Sullivan, but yeah, after Sullivan and Mike took a liking to that little girl who likes to shout "boo" at everyone, Henry J. Waternoose and Randall Boggs started conspiring against them because Randall was the monster that was assigned to scare Boo, and they had an evil plan to kidnap children and to deal with the scream shortage. Which could have been solved way more easily if they were bold enough to take the same risk that Mike and Sully did when they had to escape from Camp Teamwork in Monsters U, since the screams of adults were much more powerful than the screams from kids or teenagers. Because some adults in Monsters University were still not too old or mature or courageous to not be scared when they see a monster. There's probably, like I said, there could be other monsters in Monsters Inc. who might continue to scare the same kid after they become a teenager. as long as they're not too old to be scared by monsters, if they're not desensitive enough. Yeah, after but yeah, Mr. Waternoose and Randall didn't want Mike and Sully to prevent them from kidnapping Boo and other children from the human world. So that's why they banished them to the Himalayas, where they make the abominable soul monster from the mailroom, and then they find their way back to the monster world once they see this village of other kids who are screaming. So that's how they got back into the monster world. I wasn't paying close enough attention the first 2 times I saw that. And they're trying to look for Boo's door in the door vault, but Randall was hot on their trail, and he almost kicked Sullivan to his death, because it's a very huge door vault. It's a very long way down in a large room of a million different doors. But luckily, Boo stood her ground, and she was a very brave little girl who via Randall saved Sully. And at first I was just as scared as Sully when Waternoose shouted at him, "I'm gonna kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die." But then it got funnier when we found out Mike was just Mike recorded him saying that in the training room, and he kept playing it over and over again. And Henry Waternoose was promptly embarrassed and then immediately arrested. And then Mike and Sully renovate Monsters Inc. so that they generate their clean electricity from laughter instead of scares. Leading to the events of Monsters at Work. It's laughter we're after. Because they learned it wasn't right to scare kids, because Boo was she cried because she was scared of the images of Sully when he scared that kid in the training room. And I was definitely scared of that too. So I'm glad that they switched over from scream power to laugh power at the end of Monsters Inc. and in Monsters at Work. So in conclusion, I think on some level, I guess Monsters U and Monsters Inc. are, I think on some level they are meant to be scary movies, but not too scary, even though they're about monsters. But the monsters definitely have some of their own scary situations to face. It's both in the human world and in the monster world. Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan face some serious perils. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you see Monsters at Work. I'd certainly love to check it out, and I think it's going to be a very funny show. Maybe the monsters will even make some teenagers laugh. Who knows?